Hello. I hope you all have had a great week. So, the last few weeks we've been chatting about reflection. We covered why reflection is important and how to incorporate reflection into your everyday life. And now we're on to implementing what you gleaned from your reflections. And this is the most important part because all this work doesn't mean anything if you don't take action, right? And it's also the most fun part of the process, I think, because this is where you get to play and experiment with new things to see what works and what doesn't work. So, let me take an example from my life that'll really show the idea of experimenting. So, several years ago, I was visiting my friend Courtney out in California, and we were catching up on all things life, how you do when you haven't seen a friend in a while. I was giving the full rundown of everything that was going on with me, and she stopped me in my tracks, which is really unusual for her. She does not interrupt people ever. She's an exceptional listener. So, just the fact that she stopped me mid story was enough to make me perk up and listen. So she asked me this just really simple question. Are you happy, Brittany? And in the moment, I said all the things I'd convinced myself of to that point. Of course, I love Chicago. I love the students I get to work with. I love my life. But that question stuck with me. And when I got home, I really dug into it. And when I came out on the other side of my reflection, I realized that I was not happy at all. And even further, I was able to separate each aspect of my life to figure out that it was my job that was at the root of all of it. And it was having a huge impact on every other area of my life. I was a grouch, you all, and I was not proud of that at all. So, what did I do? I started with a list. I literally wrote down all the things in my life that in that moment that made me happy and all the things that made me unhappy. Basically, a pro con list with a slight twist. And then I took the low hanging apples on my unhappy list and I cut them out completely. And one of those things was TV. Not because there's not anything happy on TV, but because of how I felt when I sat and watched TV for even just an hour. I felt so unproductive and lazy, which made me unhappy. And on the happy side was friendships. So I made a point to go out at least twice a week with a friend. Now, those were the low hanging apples that I could pull off right away and see an immediate change. So that got me started and motivated to keep going. So, of course, there were the other things on the list that I needed to tackle. And the biggest one was my job. Not only had I realized that I was really unhappy in my job, but even more so with my overall career choice. And that was a huge moment for me. For me personally, working in education was draining and not sustainable. So I got my resume cleaned up so that it highlighted my transferable skills and I started a job search. And that was the hardest decision because I never thought that I would leave education. But once I was on track towards where I wanted to be, I knew I was going to need nudges to keep me there. So I set up reminders, little things that would pop up throughout my day and remind me of what I learned from my reflection and what I'm working towards. And this is where the whole idea of experimenting really, really explodes. And here are a few things that I've tried throughout the years since this realization, both to keep me on track with happiness, but also with other little minor reflections that I've had and adjustments that I've wanted to make. So, messages on my bathroom mirror, that's a favorite of mine. Alerts that pop up on my phone at specific times in the day. There are all kinds of apps for that. Notes on my steering wheel of my car. Screensavers on my laptops. Vision recordings, another super favorite of mine. Post-it note reminders on the door as I leave my condo, song associations. I could go on, and I still use some of these today, and others I let go of because they just don't work for me. That doesn't mean they won't work for you, but they just didn't work for me. The idea is that I'm not only shifting my behavior, but I'm shifting the way of thinking. I'm shifting my way of thinking. I'm creating a new habit for my mind, exercising a brain muscle that maybe hadn't been used before. So until I get good at it, I need these nudges and reminders to keep me on track. So, over the weekend, I want you to take that nugget that you've reflected on over the last 2 weeks, and I want you to identify the actions that you need to take to get you closer to where you want to be, closer to who you want to be. Now, knock out those low-hanging apples and create reminders for yourself to take one step each and every day. I hope this was helpful, and you will have a great weekend. Mwah.